was pretty traumatic from going from a kid that had zero, literally, and worked his way up, built businesses, and then finally was at a level of success that I could have never even fathomed. And then poof, it was like fell off a cliff.
Hey, friends and listeners of the Switch for Good podcast. Yep, that's you. I have some really exciting news. Dotsie and I have started a Switch for Good podcast Facebook group. We created it so we can build a community of fans that will help us improve the show and deliver on the topics that you want to learn more about. So we want to hear what your favorite content is, what you want more of, and what you want less of. And if you like the length of the show, Dotsie and I are always talking about the length of the show, right, Dotsie?
Yes.
We want to tailor our show around the needs and desires of our incredible listeners, almost 500,000 of you. And it's really simple to join. Just go to our Switch for Good Facebook page. That's Switch, the number 4, and then Good. And then click on groups. And there we are, the Switch for Good podcast chat. You can post directly in the group, share ideas, talk to other listeners, and connect with like-minded folks. So go, run, join our Facebook group and tell us what you want.
Today's guest has an incredibly compelling life story. He's someone who truly knows how to turn adversity into opportunity. Uber successful serial entrepreneur David Israel has owned, among other things, a nightclub, a jewelry store, a chain of upscale pawn shops, and a maintenance company. But what's most interesting is that in 2011, while diving into, he founded Pop Gourmet Foods, taking the snack industry by storm and forming partnerships with globally recognized retailers nationally and internationally. He was even featured in Oprah's magazine multiple times. Then in 2017, David had an epiphany. The following year, he took his passion and considerable experience and created the wildly popular company, Good Planet Foods, to address the burgeoning demand from people who want to eat better, healthier, environmentally friendly products. This is a guest who can probably teach us a thing or two about making lemonade out of lemons. So get ready for a riveting tale that has all the high stakes drama of a movie in the making, in our opinion. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you very much, Dotsie and Alexandra. It's thrilled to be here. Again, I was like just looking at what you guys do, and I'm like, I don't know how they picked my topic, but here I am. We have a lot to talk about. I'm ready to go when you are. So
Okay.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored to be here too. So let me tell you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, the listeners are going to see why as we traverse through your life and through this episode. We're going to work kind of backwards a little bit here. We'll probably jump backwards and forwards and backwards. If your life is just littered with really interesting tales. But we're going to start with the fact that you started a company about 11 years ago that makes popcorn that I mentioned in your introduction called Pop Gourmet Foods. And you wrote the business plan when you were behind bars. So tell us what got you into prison in the first place.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a 2-hour show, so I'll try to cut to the chase. I had started a company called Pawn Exchange in 1993. The goal was to actually emulate a company out of Texas called Cash America that went public. And what it was doing extremely well was getting all the accolades in Fortune magazine where I read about them. And they were taking the old traditional pawn shops and converting them, buying them, and turning them into retail atmosphere. So I went down, looked at them, decided that they're growing. I want to do the same thing. And I launched in Seattle, not knowing really anything about that industry other than what you think of from the outside. But I'm like, oh, this will be easy. It wasn't. I understood jewelry because I had just sold a jewelry store. So that's why I was using that money to get into something else. But
did you have any fear? Because when I think of pawn shops, that's kind of what I think of, that they're probably dangerous to own and run to the people that work there.
No, I mean, listen, none of that occurred to me. I mean, this is why I can start so many businesses, is I don't see any obstacles. If it's black and white, I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm not going to be starting a computer or a software company. I mean, it's pretty clear, not in my wheelhouse. But unless there's something that says it's just not possible for me to do it, I just go do it. and then I deal with the things along the way versus putting the things in front of me and finding barriers of why not to do it. Because every business, no matter how well planned out, is going to have things you have to fix. So no, I didn't think of any of that other than replicating something, doing it at a higher level. At any rate, I launched it in 1993. Boy, it really took off. I mean, we had 15 stores by 1996. Two of my old high school friends joined me later in 1994. And then we raised capital. First time I've ever had to go out and raise capital at that level. And, you know, I had Howard Schultz, the founders of Costco. Most of the boards of both Starbucks and Costco were investors. And, you know, I was getting all these, you know, accolades, and it was in the newspaper. I was winning awards for, you know, transforming an old business. But at any rate, in 1996, things are going incredibly well. We're planning on building, you know, another 30, 40 stores. We're talking about going public. I have a great board and a great group of investors. And I get these whisperings from someone that prosecutors looking at me for some type of crimes. And I'm like, okay. So I literally called the prosecutor's office and I said, hey, I heard you guys they're like, oh, no. It's probably just mumblings, you know, your competitors are probably aggravated, just want to cause you, you know, some sores. So I'm like, okay, you know, that's fine. Well, 3 weeks later, they raided my first store. And yeah, they took our computers. So day or two later, I receive in the mail, it's amazing. I'm being charged with receiving stolen property. So I immediately get an attorney. Turns out it's from someone that sold this stuff literally in our 4th month of business. And again, this person was sent to us by a very reputable jeweler in another city in Seattle, like one of the highest, right now they're the highest level jeweler in the state, but you need inventory. When you're growing, everybody's coming. We used to call them pocket vendors because they didn't have stores. They would go out and they would buy things and bring it to you. Anyway, so we bought some merchandise. Anyway, it turns out this person was not buying, it was a group, and they were committing robberies, and they were going into locker rooms at athletic clubs and getting credit cards and buying stuff with it and then selling it. And it wasn't just to me, it was a bunch of jewelry stores they were selling it to. It was littered. It was littered. But anyway, this person was in prison for some other crime. And try to use this as a way. Well, he did. He used it. He got immunity. As a matter of fact, everybody got immunity, except for one of his crime partners, who I had no idea who it was, and me. My partner got immunity. Everybody got immunity. So, end of the day, I got charged. I got an attorney. The attorney hires an investigator. They send it out to this guy's prison to talk to him. He can't talk because he's under this immunity agreement. But his caseworker in the prison says, hey, he told me he made this all up and has tricked the prosecutor and got his way out of all these problems. So I get a phone call. Boy, this is going to be quick, David. It's over. We're gonna go to trial and we're gonna rush it. And they did. I mean, usually people waive their right to a speedy trial because you need more than 90 days to get your act together. Well, yeah, we didn't. So we rushed. We got in front of the judge, and the prosecutor says, hey, we want you to know before we move forward, we're going to be contesting the witness. And he's like, well, why say? Well, either privileged information or hearsay, but either way, yeah, we're contesting it. And the judge said, well, I'm going to allow it. This is Judge Mertel. This is in early 1997, actually, January. And he says, I'm going to allow the witness. And they said, well, they were going to ask for a recess. They asked for a recess. They went up and appealed and a witness. And literally, I went home, and I was home for 3 years. And I resigned from my company. I mean, I didn't want to bring any attention to I was in the media. It was like, trust me, I was.
So wait, I had a hard time following all that. So yep. You got off. Is that right?
No.
Oh, okay. You didn't.
During appeal, it was on hold. So I went home while all the appellate court made a ruling or whatever, right? So
okay.
It took 3 years for this.
And they ruled that it was not your fault that you bought stolen goods because you didn't know they were stolen.
No, this is about the witness, about having this witness being able to testify.
Okay.
That's what the prosecutor appealed.
That's
So-
all that it was about. Okay.
Yeah, right. So I quit my job because I didn't want to bring it. I was bringing it. I was in the media. I was on the front page. I was on the news. So it was pretty traumatic from going from a kid that had zero, literally, and worked his way up, built businesses, and then finally was at a level of success that I could have never even fathomed. And then poof, it was like fell off a cliff. So I was like, boy, my wife and I had 2 young kids. I mean, that became our biggest concern, was our family and our children, to really protect them. Because again, I was in the limelight. But anyway, I had to start a job. So I actually started a company with a friend about 6 months later, that we developed a tensioning system so we could put vinyl signs on the side of trucks. So we did that. We built it. We did really well. We were installing them ourselves initially. And in 1999, 3 years later, and I'm living with this over my head. And by this time, trust me, now they've upped the charges on top of all of it, because they increased it to conspiracy, robbery, anything these guys did, I was responsible for at the end of the day under this conspiracy charge. So it really got worse, but we're like, okay, I mean, this witness will take care of everything. But anyway, in early 1999, they ruled I could not have the witness. So it was back to court. They asked to make a deal. I was like, no, we're not making a deal. My attorney's like, David, this is slam dunk. You're going to win. So we don't need to make a deal. We went to trial in March of 1999. It went on for 6 weeks.
And you can't use this witness who was a witness to what?
That the person that implicated me didn't really implicated our business and
It was
me
a
and my partner.
caseworker. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he said that the guy told him he made this all up and got himself out of trouble. So he was celebrating, right? But he couldn't. This person couldn't testify to that. So anyway, they had no witnesses. It was all really circumstantial. But yeah, we had a 6-week trial, about 3 weeks of a jury deliberation, which is usually a slam dunk in the defenses. But they came back. They had a lot of questions. They came back, and I remember I was never been arrested. Just with all this stuff, I'd never been arrested. They came back. The court was packed. My wife is standing next to me. They read the verdicts, and the judge just had a look on his face. I was like, he was about to break down, and I knew it was over. And he said they found me guilty, and they rushed these. I've never, like I said, I've never been arrested. The bailiffs run, or the sheriffs run to grab me. The judge says, hold on, Mr. Israel's not going anywhere. We're going to let him have time with his family, get his affairs in order, and then we'll come back and we'll have a hearing for sentencing. And we're talking about 13 to 17 years or something for these verdicts. So they gave me 90 days to get my family in order. And that's all we did. My wife and I just figured out how we were going to manage it financially. We wanted to make sure that our girls were okay.
And this point, you haven't been sentenced. You have no idea if you're going for a month or 10 years.
Well, I knew it wasn't a month. It was a minimum of 7 or 8 years.
Gotcha.
With a maximum of 17. So anyway, school's out now. It's June. We're traveling around the state, and we're not allowed to leave the state anymore. So we're sitting in the sun in Eastern Washington, and I'm at the pool. And I get a phone call from my attorney, and he goes, hey, are you sitting down? And I'm like, well, I'm in the sun. I'm lying down. Why? He goes, well, I have some news. I'm like, well, how much worse could it get? I mean, he goes, no, the guy that implicated you has written letters to the judge and to the Seattle Times and called us, and he wants to clear your name. He wants to tell the truth. And he's in prison, this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I hung up and I told my wife, I go, it's over. It's over. The guy's coming clean. So they have to extend it. Now my 90 days turns into like 120 days because they have to extend it because they have to set a trial, a hearing. They have to bring this guy in from prison. And they do. And I'm thinking, well, at least I'm getting another 30 or 60 days out of this, right? Because every day meant something to me and my family. And we go to this hearing, and we go to our courtroom, and there are people in the hallways. It's flooded with the media and the whole shebang. So we have to move to a bigger courtroom. And we get in there and they bring this guy in and he's in a jumpsuit and he have him in shackles. I mean, they just brought him from prison.
Yeah.
They unshackle him and they release him and he gets up on the witness stand and they swear him in. And my attorney stands up and the prosecutor says, "Excuse me, I might ask that Mr. Bryant might want to invoke his Fifth Amendment right." And the judge,
He's the defendant. He's the guy. The Bryant is the person who came in from prison.
right, he's the one that originally implicated me from prison. So, and the judge is like, "Why would you?" She said, "Well, we're trying to revoke his immunity, and anything he says contrary to what he told us 4 years ago, we're going to use against him." So his attorney stands up and says, "Yep, he can't testify. He needs to use his Fifth Amendment right." And the judge, who's a great guy, Judge Bertel, we've been working on stuff for 4 years. And I've had to go in several times because they would contest my businesses, they would contest my business travel. I mean, they tried to do everything they could to stop me from being successful. So he says, "Well, here's the deal. Someone wrote those letters from that prison." He goes, "Someone called Mr. Topel, my attorney, from that prison." He goes, "Those phone calls are recorded." He goes, "And we're gonna have a handwriting analysis done." He says, "And then we'll regroup." So he goes, "We'll dismiss this today. Mr. Israel's going home. We're going to get a handwriting analysis and a voice analysis, and we'll determine whether it was him or not." And boy, I got another 60 days. He came back. He overturned the verdicts. And then, and then the judge overturned the verdicts. And then the prosecutor appealed his decision to overturn the verdicts. So turned into another 3 years. So that's when I couldn't get a job, basically.
I'm like exhausted just listening.
I mean, who's gonna, right? I was worn out and trampled, but really had to stay strong for my family and my wife. I mean, we really didn't want our children to feel, we did a great job. I mean, they had really basically no clue what was going on. I mean, they were young enough where they could catch a glimpse of us struggling here and there, but that's about it. So I couldn't get a job.
They? The
Let's
beginning.
see, when that happened, they were 5 and 6 months initially.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they're still pretty young through that. Okay.
So now, like I said, I couldn't get a job. No one's going to hire some guy. I'm in appeals. So I took a job as a janitor, cleaning fitness centers at condominium complexes. And
what happened to the vinyl siding company?
I had to sell. Good question. So when they came back and said I had to go to trial, my partner said, "Man, I can't go through this with you. If you lose, they're going to come after me or our business." So I sold my shares to him, which I understood. I didn't want to, but it was the right thing to do. So I had to sell it. Anyway, so I did become a janitor. I'm pretty thorough. I'm a very detailed guy, and I'm cleaning these places probably like they've never seen before. So the management company's like, "Hey, can you do some more places? Can you change light bulbs?" I go, "Tell you," I said, "Boy, believe it or not, I can change a light bulb." So I started changing light bulbs, and then they would say, "Well, can you fix a doorknob?" I mean, it was like simple stuff, but I just started doing everything. I bought a van. At that point, and I bought equipment. And I came up with the name Home Pro, and well, boy, I mean, I picked up through these management companies, I picked up over 400 condominium complexes over 3 years. It was like 465 complexes we did. But I created the first company that did everything for the management companies. So not major construction, but minor construction, plumbing, electrical. We got all these licenses. I mean, painting, if someone moved out, we had to clean and paint the place, all their facilities, maintenance and janitorial. So it was a one-stop shop that they didn't have to go with 4 different vendors or 5. It was all in one house, and we did an amazing job. So I built it up to 45 employees, and we did all these things over the next 3 years. And then in May of 2003, the appellate court came back with their verdict, and they upheld the judge's decision to overturn the verdicts.
Great.
Yes.
However, you ended up in jail. So
right, because they could retry me. So it's now been 7 years. It's not something we could afford to go through or mentally go through. I just said, I can't do it anymore. I couldn't take it. I needed closure. I mean, if I went back it was an enormous amount of money to go back to fight with another attorney, but also the first time I was told I was going to win and I lost, and I couldn't take it. I mean, I was done. So I threw in the towel. I agreed to a no contest plea, which is called an Alford plea in the state of Washington. And I went to prison for 4 years.
Wow. And that's a big deal. Were you actually in prison for 4 years, or was your sentence 4 years?
No, the sentence was 5.5, but with good time, I'm out in 4, which I knew that wouldn't be a problem. And look, it was life-changing. I mean, we all have this idea of who these people are in prison, and it's what you see on TV, and it's really not the truth. I mean, a lot of these guys are just, some of them, a lot, are victims of their environment or where they grew up, and are really intelligent, smart people. I mean, I would call them entrepreneurs. They just didn't know how, or didn't have the opportunity to do things the right way.
In prison, you got the idea to start a company that made popcorn and sold popcorn because you saw the prisoners eating popcorn and putting all this delicious stuff on it. Is that right?
That's right. And what my mission while I was there was to create a business. I wanted to really, because I wanted to show the prosecutor that go ahead, I'm going to turn this into something successful. So it's not going to be tasting too good for you. So yeah, I thought about writing a book on fitness from the inside out. I thought about a cookbook, but in my last 6 months, these guys who, like I said, I've made a lot of friends there, and I really wanted to find a way to help people. So they were making this popcorn concoction with melted caramel and microwave popcorn and M&Ms and peanut butter. They were mixing it all up, and boy, one day I tried it. I thought to myself, man, this is a business. So I had my associates send me information on the popcorn industry. I wrote a short business plan. It was about 3 pages. And when I got out, I started making it and giving it to my friends and neighbors. And they're all like, my God, you have to do something with this. So I made it. I dropped it off at a local chain, Thriftway. It was just up the block from us, and asked them to give it a try. And I think it was about a week goes by, and they said, we want to bring this in. I'm like, fantastic. I said, I'll drop it off, and when you sell it, you can pay me. They go, no, we're going to buy it. And I called it Pop Gourmet, and this was called the original Big House blend. So it got on the shelf. They expanded it to like 4 or 5 stores. I came up with some other additional flavors. And within 3 months, I had a little small 1,200 square foot production facility, which I thought was huge at the time. I mean, from making it at home, and you take this next step, I was like, yeah, that's some big equipment. But it wasn't. And I'd say about 5 or 6 months into it, I'm getting a lot of traction, and I decided to launch. I looked I was looking at the shelves, and I was like, boy, I mean, it's doing really well. Not off the charts well. It's doing really well though. And I was getting these, again, starting to pick up some momentum. I was like, gosh, I mean, it really doesn't stand out at the end of the day, because all the other stuff on the shelf was caramel or cinnamon caramel, I was like, I really wanted to create something unique. So I said to my wife, I said, I think I need to come up with some better flavors. And she says, why don't you do white truffle and chocolate salted caramel? They were really trending at the time. So I did. I went and bought these amazing high quality products, and made these items and got them on the shelf. And really, I got picked up by the local Safeway chain and changed things again. And I'm like, I really don't know what I'm doing. And I talked to a friend. He goes, well, I have someone that works at Starbucks, so maybe might consult with you and help you, with the packaging and all this stuff that you need to do. And I met with her. I gave her my products, and she goes, boy, this white truffle is just unreal. She goes, white truffle is one of Oprah's favorites. I go, it is? I go, huh. So the next week I made some, and I shipped it back to O Magazine. Just figured I'd give it a shot. And literally like 10 days later, on a Friday afternoon, I get a phone call, and I answer. I'm like, Pop Gourmet, hi, this is Melissa with O Magazine. I'm like, yes. She goes, hey, we really love your product. Oprah loves the white truffle. We'd like to order 5 cases for a meeting in New York here tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow, Saturday? She goes, yes, we'll give you our FedEx number. If you can ship it, we would like to have it for meetings we're having here. I'm like, you bet. I mean, it's like, that was a big order for me, actually. So, so we went and made it. We got it to FedEx, got it there. And then I learned about a month later, she was putting us in the magazine as one of her favorite things. And I think it was February 2012. Anyway, I believe that was the edition.
Yeah.
And
thanks to your wife for
yeah, no doubt
suggesting
about it. Well,
those. Yeah.
and this woman who was consulting that said, "Hey, Oprah loves white truffle." So everything kind of came together, and yeah, I got in the magazine, and the next thing you knew, boy, the next 6 months were a ride like you wouldn't believe.
Yes, we're going to go there. I have to just go back for 1 second because it certainly feels like the way that you tell your story that prison was almost a relief. So you went in and you spent 4 years. There must have been I don't know if it's radical transformation, but some kind of personal transformation. That's a long time. Did you come out different? Did anything change in you for the worse or for the better or for the neutral?
I think it was all for the better, actually. I mean, again, I went in with that mindset that all these people were just the garbage of the earth. And I learned within 48 hours, I saw humanity and kindness that I would have never expected. What people watching out for me, telling me how to handle. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. Believe me, I was just a complete moron.
Were you scared?
Yeah, because it's what you read from the outside, you know. I mean, you don't know what to expect. But that fear turned into strength pretty quickly in the first 90 days. And again, as I learned that it was really all about respect, what you give and what you demand. Okay, I mean, you have to draw a line, and if you demand respect without offending people, you're going to get it. So you treat people with respect and you demand respect. It was great. And like I said, I learned a ton about people. I saw a lot of kindness and a lot of smart guys and never had opportunities, heard a lot of tough stories of what they went through as they grew up and what they go through in life, period, because they made a mistake and now they want to go out and do something, but society prevents it. You know, I mean, it's just all stacked against you. So I really became friends. I learned what was important in life. I mean, for a while it was I wanted nice cars and houses and you know, watches and everything else to be people to recognize you, and that all went out the window. It was really just like I said. I mean, I do want to be successful, I particularly for my investors and my family. But you know what? I mean, there's only so much I need. I mean, as long as we're comfortable, I'm good. As long as my family's healthy and happy, I'm good. So yeah, it did come out. It made me stronger, and it made it easier for me to do things because I really didn't care about what people thought. Or you know, I didn't let people, like I said, I learned this respect thing that was really solid, that no one was going to tell me anything. I mean, I want to do the right thing, but no one's going to dictate to me who I'm going to be. So it made it easier to do business because again, I wasn't worried about a lot of stuff. I wasn't trying to buy a house. I mean, that wasn't it. I just wanted to do well for my family. And I wanted to change the way society and our community handled people coming back in from prison. There are some that I get, trust me, I learned a lot. Anybody that's been in prison won't be the ones that are telling you shouldn't have prisons. I mean, there's a need, but there's some people that won't change. A lot of it is mental illness, and that's very hard to deal with it. Some of it is addiction, which is hard to deal with. But these people that came from an environment and never had opportunity, I wanted to see to it that they had opportunity. At POP, we hired, my first cellmate worked there and grew into a vice president's position. We hired, I would say, over 250 people that were transitioning back. Some stuck, some just worked for a few months when they were in work release, but we gave opportunity, and we had the opportunity to create jobs and give people a chance to do something, to let them know that we would we would give them a chance. And that's some things sometimes people had never had. Yep. So
yeah, that's certainly something we're missing on the outside in today's society, is just simple respect for the next human.
Yeah, well, across
and
the
also
board.
when you're a felon, you know, you go in and you do your time, and then you're punished again when you come out because you're unable to get work. And I'm of two minds. My brother was in jail also for 4 years in a medium security federal prison for an animal rights issue, and he came out and he was unable to get work, and it was lucky that friends hired him, and now he has his own business because of this issue. But most people who are in jail don't have the entrepreneurial, well, most people don't have the entrepreneurial smarts that you have, or even the relationships that my brother might have had before he went in, or you had. So it's hard for them, super hard. But at the same time, as someone who might hire somebody, I understand the concern that they might have for hiring someone who has a record. So what do you tell people to open them up to the idea of hiring someone with a record?
Well, one, I mean, you have to be selective. I mean, there's certain things that don't fit in certain types of businesses, right? I mean, you can't create risks for your employees, customers, which I understand. But you evaluate somebody. I mean, we don't know. You don't know what the guy in your office next door is doing after hours, or what he's done in his past. I mean, a lot of people have made mistakes and just never got caught. So really, it's about doing better again for our community. If we don't employ people, then what, right? I mean, what are their options? And I saw it firsthand. People, young men that I had talked to and convinced them they could go out and get their life straight, would get out. And then I would see them come back, 9 months or a year later. And I would say, what happened? I mean, you had everything. You said you had this plan. He goes, man, he goes, I missed a child support payment. They took my license away. I couldn't get to work. He goes, it was like, man, if they're not going to let me do it, I'm going to go back to do what I know how to do. And it's just this vicious circle where if we give people a hand, it's better for our community. It's less crime. I mean, we can invest our tax dollars in helping people versus incarcerating them. But we have to be mindful about it. It's not a one swipe works for everybody. It has to be a thoughtful thing. We have Dave's Killer Bread Foundation, or Dave's Killer Bread, which also hires formerly incarcerated. The Virgin Group is a big supporter of helping the formerly incarcerated. I spoke to all their CEOs in Chicago a few years ago. So there is some attention being served here, but it's not like that. I mean, we can't just say, okay, we're going to hire everybody. There has to be thought behind it. You have to be smart about it, and you have to say, this person makes sense. This person doesn't. Like anybody you would hire, I guess, right? At least you know what their faults are ahead of time. How about that?
It's true. That's true. It's smart what you said about the fact that we've all done things that aren't ethical, but we haven't gotten caught. So, and they vary in what they are. But, and of course, if you're born a middle-class white person with a good, strong family, your crimes, quote unquote, are looked at, we just get off more easily. Let's face it, you didn't, David, but nope. Most of us do. So people born in different circumstances,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they just never have a shot. Trust me. Yeah. And we have to change that. There needs to be more than just giving people jobs. I mean, we need to go back into the inner city and help support people and give them a pathway, opportunities for education, for jobs, to do things the way they want to do them. If they don't want to do them, we can't, we can take a horse to water, right? But there's a lot of folks that really want to have a better life and do things the right way, and they just don't have that option. And now I serve on the board of something called Pioneer Industries, which is they supply the aeronautics or aerospace companies, Boeing in particular, and they make parts or they finish parts or whatever, and they employ people coming back and they give them education. So it's something I could really be a firm believer in and want to support. So that's where I'd focus now. Besides at Good Planet, where you had asked, when I was released, I started going back and giving talks in prison about entrepreneurship and getting your life on track. And I met Spencer Oburn, and Spencer wanted to stay in touch, and I gave him a job when I started Good Planet building. He was in work release building cubicles. I started giving him more. Boy, he was a machine. He's a bulldozer. Super smart, super committed. After about 9 months, both of the other guys were gone, and he was doing everything. And now he's our vice president of operations.
Tell us about Good Planet. Where did the idea for Good Planet Foods come from? Because it's different in that it's for a more specific market, even though, of course, everyone should try it. It's so delicious, by the way. I'm a big fan.
Thank
Big
you.
fan. Yes. There's some in my fridge right now.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
So, but where did the idea come from?
Well, when I stepped away from the snack company, I sold the majority to a private equity group out of New York. I left in early 2017, and I wanted to do something all of my SKUs at Pop were trending towards better for you, natural, cleaner, because it started out as indulgent, but I really started trending towards higher quality natural products. So when I left, I'm like, I want to do something in the better for you category, and got a little office, and I started kind of contemplating where that was going to be. And I started getting a lot of offers to partner with people and do things, but I wanted to do, like I said, I had something in mind. I wasn't sure what. And my sister-in-law, boy, my wife and my sister-in-law, they control my whole life. My sister-in-law said, you know what?
Women.
You should do something with vegan cheese. And I'm like, why would I do that? I mean, not vegan. I don't know anything about it. She goes, no, you don't understand. She goes, I buy the products. She goes, they don't melt and they taste like crap. And I go, really? I said, I don't know anything about that industry. She goes, just try it. So I went and I bought the 2 liters at the time, and I tried to melt them. I got a little bubble. I got some transparency, not really a melt. It looked like just plastic that had been kind of, seriously.
This was back in 2017, right?
Yep.
Because now the cheese is advanced from a lot of companies since then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of choices then. So
Right.
The meltability and the taste, I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I go, this can't be that tough. If this is what it is today, it should be pretty easy. So Google became my best friend. And I started Googling the market, and that's when it started popping up about the environment, the implications that, the cattle has with the 65 gallons of water a day, the amount of land it takes, cow flatulence being the number one impact on our ozone layer over fossil fuel. That blew me away. So it really caught me about, this is something I can be passionate about. So then I started Googling cheese making, and I found it was called analog cheese, where they use dairy powder and oil to make cheese. And I was like, why couldn't we use plant-based materials to do that? Right. So I reached out to, I don't know, probably 9 or 10 companies in Wisconsin to see, because there's a lot of analog cheese companies, tons, if you can imagine. They all said no. Majority was they didn't want to be involved with a vegan product. A couple were because I was just too small, which I understood. So I kept Googling, and I found a company in Greece on the island of Crete that was making something called vegan loaf for the Greek Orthodox holiday and for Ramadan. And they had a picture of it, and it was just one SKU. It looked like it melted, so I ordered it, and it melted really well. It had a great texture. It was basically a blasé American flavor at the end of the day. I mean, nothing to it. So I reached out to them and I said, these guys, all they do is make products for grocery chains there and in that region. So it's not their own brand. They made yogurt for tzatziki and stuff like that. And I said, hey, I'd like you to make a cheese for me, this vegan loaf. I want to create a brand. And they said, no, we don't know you. We don't trust you. I said, no, I'm going to build a brand. That's what you guys do. They said, no. You're in America, you're going to buy our product and then you're going to steal it. And we'll never. I said, okay, that's not how I do business. I said, may I meet with you? So I flew there. I met with them. After about 4 hours, the CEO, his name is Perry, he looks at me, he goes, you can have anything you like. He goes, I trust you. I can tell you're a good person. I'm like, well, that was easy.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we launched, that was in July of 2017. We started building the formulas and the brand. I wanted to create a brand that was to connect with the broader consumer that cared about the planet. So that's why I came up with Good Planet, and it was plant-based, which just started to develop really at that time. And we launched, we got everything together, and I launched in May of 2018 at the National Restaurant Association show. And it took off. And it was like a rocket ship. I couldn't even believe it. So it's been very fortunate to have that opportunity. But we created a great product, and we created a brand that was connecting with the consumers. And now, I mean, there's a ton of competition out there today, but some of them aren't faring so well.
Yeah. So it's good capital plan, little e, big T. So it's a good plan, and it's plants. And it's good. So just making sure everybody gets all that. And for the planet, I love how you have it done. So what are the actual ingredients then, and what styles of cheese are you offering now?
Yeah, wow. We've started out with shreds and slices, the basics, American cheddar, pepper jack, and then we had grated Parmesan, cheddar, and mozzarella shreds that we launched with. We've evolved. I mean, what we have changed things so much from when we first launched. I mean, you think you have a great product, and then you start to realize, like, look, the consumer wants a better melt here, or the shreds shouldn't be the same formula as the slices because they melt. Things are used differently. So the base we're allergen free. It's coconut oil base today. It's plant-based starches, very clean, non-GMO, kosher, halal, the whole shebang. We checked all the boxes. But we literally changed our not massively. It was all in a better ingredient here, how we process here. So our mozzarella would melt across all types of ovens and brown and, put off a little bit of oil to have a better texture, to have a better flavor. So we constantly tried to improve, and we've done really well. We're one of the only two that are still growing in the category. The plant-based category has taken a little bit of a pummel over the past 9 months. And I think it's because a lot of companies rushed to market because they wanted to be a part of it and didn't care. I was like, did they taste this before they put it out? I mean, it was kind of like, that's what I thought. And a lot of them are falling off. I mean, they're not surviving, and they're getting taken off the shelves. So I think we're still growing along with another great couple of brands that have done a good job. But we've evolved. I mean, we now have wedges like Laughing Cow. We launched a naturally smoked wheel. So it's not flavored. It actually goes through a real smoke process. So we've really tried to replicate and give the consumer the true experience of cheese, but we're not done yet. I mean, we're focused on this next gen product, on what is next. How do we give something even healthier, even better for the planet? Because the consumer wants the healthy attributes in food. I mean, they don't want a piece of, sure, it looks like cheese, it tastes like cheese, but basically it has, the protein of a piece of cardboard, right? And they want these healthy attributes. So that's what we're here to deliver. We have an R&D lead that's out there trying to create products that, again, as we make these launches over the next 2 or 3 months, that really compare with real cheese.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending task to try to do something better, or you get left behind.
Yeah. Do you think that what I'm hearing as far as y'all's secrets to success, it's focusing kind of on both the taste and the texture, flavor, as well as how it behaves? Because I feel like a lot of cheese early on, if they just did one or the other, but not both.
Yeah, a lot of the melt was the biggest thing I heard, which is why, again, it just seemed like, oh, this will be easy because they didn't melt. They just, like I said, they popped or bubbled or whatever. So for me, it was like, oh, this can't be too hard. So melt was the focus, and we achieved that right out of the gate. But again, we wanted, it melted, but did it melt like real cheese? No. So it was constantly trying to upgrade. And I have to say, I mean, I would say we're about 90% there on a real side-by-side melt. Our mozzarella is amazing. I mean, a lot of pizza companies use it, and it browns, and you wouldn't know the difference. And maybe side-by-side with a great mozzarella you would, but I think if we served you a pizza, like a frozen pizza or a pizza from one of these pizza parlors, you'd say this is real mozzarella. But we have a long way to go. Again, we want to create that next gen product, and that's what we're focused on. We want to be that company that leads the category. We have a ways to go. BioLife has done an amazing job, but they also have a boatload. They have an endless pit of money because they're owned by a much larger company. And we're a young company. We're small. We have great investors, great funds. I mean, one of our investment funds is led by the former CEO of McDonald's, and we have a lot of relationships, and we want to build. So it's a constant grind of doing something differently and better. And I'm always talking about we need to innovate, and we need to offer products outside the core.
Well, if anyone's going to grow something, you will. From the past, you've done such a good job growing all the companies that you've started. I really was attracted to your cheese. Actually, my brother introduced me to your cheese, and I was attracted because it was in a cardboard box. And I find that the packaging is really an issue. And a lot of times I'll pick a product that's packaged well over another product that's not packaged well just because I feel better about it. So kudos to you for making that cardboard packaging, and then inside they're wrapped with what looks like foil. There probably is some plastic in there, right? But
no, there's just the little string.
Yay!
Yes.
So congratulations. This is for the wedges.
Yeah.
So I noticed though on your site that most of your packaging is plastic because. So tell me about what you are thinking about, because I know on your packaging you're a lot about the planet and your philosophy. You mentioned just right off. A lot of cheesemakers come from an animal cruelty point of view, trying to stop that, but you came very strongly from a planetary point of view.
Big
so what are your goals in terms of packaging?
Yeah, that's a great perspective, Alexandria. And you know what? It is a challenge because there's not a lot of options for us on the cheese side. Here, the things that we have to weigh is there are some packaging that are more planet friendly that we could use that'll either they'll delete the shelf life immensely, which makes us not purchasable, or we can go out and buy something more sustainable, but it increases the cost. And you know what? We're willing to do that. The buyers aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to say, we'll put Good Planet on the shelf for $1 more per package to offer that pack. They're not there yet. So it's this constant battle. I mean, I wish we could get there. And I think I get emails literally daily from packaging companies. They are making progress. I think it's a few years before we can really transition to where we want to be. I mean, we had talked about putting bins in some of our larger retailers where you could return the packaging, and we can make sure that it's recycled properly or disposed of properly in a more sustainable manner. But we talked through it, and it's like, okay, is the consumer going to actually use that package and then bring it back to the grocery store? I mean, we can't have them mail it in, right? So we were trying to be creative and innovative. We haven't found, I'm with you 100%, trust me. I mean, our whole team talks about it.
Yeah.
We don't know that we can't check that box today. It is coming. And I think it's going to be about cost. And I think because the demand is there, we'll see it in the next few years, but it's going to be a couple of years. I wish I could say something. I could snap my fingers and make it happen, but we can't, unfortunately.
I agree. I mean, it's like solar energy, now the cost of solar has gone down so much that it's changed but it took a long time. It takes time. And, I wish the federal government would put their subsidies in things like plastic packaging instead of dairy, because it would be so much better for the planet. But thanks for being so transparent about that. What do you think about the growth of plant-based foods? What is your projection? As you and Dotsie pointed out, there's been a dip recently. Went up during the pandemic, I think, in the beginning of the pandemic, but
crazy.
Now it's dipped. Is that a dip just because we're coming out of the pandemic, or is it because of a crowded market, or what? Yeah.
So my perspective is that there was a ton of media, a lot of accolades again for the plant-based and what it could be for our planet, for health. On the beef side, they found that there's a lot of products that came out that weren't really, they're better for the planet, but they weren't better for you at the end of the day. They're actually worse for you, right? So that was a problem. So now we lost that customer. In my category.
Is that true, or is that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I always thought that people people expect vegan things to be healthier, but we vegans never say, you know, our Oreos are healthier than your Oreos. I mean, Oreos are vegan, but you know what I mean? Our cookies, we never say our cookies are healthier than your cookies.
Yeah.
Just by dint of being vegan. They're just better for the planet, better for the animals. Sometimes they're better for you, but it's not an innate claim that every vegan makes. So it sort of pisses me off that people seem to criticize the vegan products for not being healthy when we never said they were in the first place.
I think it's also a confusion though with the vegan space and the plant-based space, because people do expect, as do we, that the plant-based, it's based in plants, it should be healthier, right? But that's not necessarily, like, you know, they're not interchangeable terms.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking about cookies versus meat or cheese, you know, when you eat a piece of meat, you get the protein, it's cleaner. They're saying it's cleaner for them. And I'm talking about the plant-based community or the flexitarians. They're like, why would I eat this? I don't get any, you know, as much protein. It has all these ingredients. I don't feel better, right? The cheese side, I mean, they're like, you know, it doesn't have any protein. It doesn't have the calcium, you know. I think in some cases, like I said, I think the plant-based was used so much, and so many companies rushed just to be a part of it. Dairy companies, beef companies. I mean, you know, there was a lot just wanted to be a part of it. And I think some large companies, be dairy or beef, got their products in because they had the relationships and they didn't give the consumer the experience that they would want. I mean, they were really terrible. So, I mean, there were plenty of times where we were aced out because a large dairy company that already had SKUs and distribution added in plant-based, and it was easier for the buyer. I mean, I get it, it makes sense, right? Now, like I said, I think I've talked my team into focusing more on planet-friendly versus plant-based. And to stay the course, because I think in our category that there were just a lot of terrible products that made it on the shelf. And now we have to stay the course to show the consumer that we have a quality product. It gives you the experience of real cheese. And we're doing our best to continue to develop products that you are going to enjoy. So I believe we know that the consumers are there. It's growing. It's a huge market. Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y went backwards, but you know, they're focused on the planet and they're focused on the climate, and they want to make choices that are better for the planet and the climate. I mean, I read that 5th and 6th graders are suffering from climate anxiety, which they're afraid. I mean, they all in the news or that's all you read about is what's going on with our, you know, all the weather scares the heck out of them. So they're going to be the consumer of the future. They're going to make these choices. Vegan, that's not going to be the tipping point for them. It's going to really be about what's better for the planet. And we want to, like I said, we want to create products that serve all these communities, but that do offer a healthier connotation or a healthier experience for everybody.
So you're saying the products will remain vegan and plant-based, but you're going to be selling it more in terms of under the banner of planet-friendly, good for the planet. Interesting.
Yeah, I think, you know, we have to because I think plant-based got tainted, and I think we have to distract from that and focus on what the broader consumer is really after. And I've had vegans tell me, well, you know what, we should be focused on vegan. I said, listen, if we're getting someone that's going to eat, you know, beef or dairy to have more balance in their life, which is really supporting what you want them, because we're not going to be able to convert them. If we can get them to have balance in their life, we're really achieving what you're after anyway. I mean, we're doing better for everybody. So it's a step at a time. We're not going to be able to shuffle everybody and turn them into vegans. And I think we have to remove the barriers and create, you know, doors that are open and say, well, you're welcome, come and do it. And if it's once a week, if it's 10 times a week, a lot of people convert completely once they try it. Because they have a great experience, right? And if we're not telling them dairy's evil, stay away, I think again it lowers the barrier for people to say I'm willing to try it, right? Because we're not trying to reel them in and make them make a whole life change. I think again we just have to give them that baby step where it's better for everybody.
Where can people go to taste your Good Planet cheese.
Well, thank you. We're nationwide. We're in all Sprout stores. You can find us in Safeway, Albertsons, Bonds. I think tons of stores across the country. So you can find it on our website at goodplanetfoods.com, and we have a location finder, and it'll tell you exactly where it is in your neighborhood.
Great. Thank you.
Most
so
excellent.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
guys. I mean, I
What a
really
life.
appreciate it.
What a company. We're big fans. We really
thank you.
appreciate you sharing all you have with us.
That means a lot. I'm honored to hear that. Thanks you very much.
Okay. Hey, folks. Okay. Back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.